8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. It is Election Day. How's it going to turn out for Republicans, Democrats, Socialists? My goodness, today there's going to be a lot to watch. And then tomorrow we'll have all the analysis, so you're not going to want to miss it. Be sure to tune in to the Jeff and Bill Show, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. weekdays. There is a fetching woman running for school board. Elizabeth, too.
I've heard, yeah.
So she's part of the Conservatives for Kids slate. We'll be up watching that. We got our own little watch party going on at a local pizzeria in Elizabeth.
Oh, that's
so it'll
nice.
be fun.
That's fantastic.
So lots to talk about today. Bill, this was brought up yesterday with regards to the conversation we were having with the Turning Point USA kids down at Fort Lewis College.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the kind of free speech versus safety issues around Stephen Miller's family. Federal and state criminal investigations into a Virginia woman who distributed leaflets disclosing the home address of White House official Stephen Miller has prompted a secret court fight over the balance between personal safety and free speech at a time of rising political violence, recently unsealed court documents show. The records, which were reviewed by the New York Times, reveal that a local court approved the search of a cell phone belonging to a woman as part of an investigation that included multiple law enforcement agencies as well as the FBI and Secret Service. The activist, Barbara Ween, has not been charged with any crime, though the Virginia State Police still have her phone. The investigation remains active, leaving it unclear whether law enforcement has since gathered additional evidence. The dispute captures the fierce tension over political activism that has become a defining feature of the second Trump presidency, pitting the Miller family's concerns for their security against the First Amendment claims of a critic of the administration. What is the dispute over? Well, on flyers that this woman was handing out included the home address of Stephen Miller and his family. Can you do that in politics? Or is it doxing? I spent some time diving into Colorado law, and it's not just politicians who are protected by doxing. A lot of people are, including healthcare workers. We'll give you the insight on this. And do you believe it's a violation of free speech to not be able to put the home address of certain elected officials out there? We'll get into this and more this hour, and we'd love to hear from you. Now it's time, though, for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It is Tuesday on the Jeff and Bill Show, and it's partly cloudy in Denver, 42 degrees. Expecting a high of 72 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, former VP Dick Cheney has died at the age of 84. He served 2 terms under W, a former Republican Wyoming congressman. Cheney also served as White House Chief of Staff for President Ford, of course, and Defense Secretary under H.W. Bush. DJT renewing his push for Senate Republicans to end the filibuster and bolster GOP chances of midterm election victories. The filibuster requires legislation in the Senate to secure 60 votes, and getting rid of it would require a simple majority to pass legislation. The president wrote in a post on Truth, quote, "The Democrats are far more likely to win the midterms and the next presidential election if we don't do the termination of the filibuster." He also argues that Democrats would do away with the filibuster if they retake the Senate majority, pass statehood for Puerto Rico and D.C., and expand the Supreme Court.
And when I say I'm a democratic socialist, I explain it in the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said that call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
Oh, of course, Commie
Golly, can people... All right.
I knew you would love that.
The distribution of wealth. By the way, I tweeted about this over the weekend. It went like crazy viral, like 180,000 views or something like that. Okay. When he says the distribution of wealth, what he's talking about is the government, with all of its power to imprison, tax, and even use guns, coming and taking your money that you earned and redistributing it to people that didn't earn it.
Yep.
That is what we're talking about. And there's a fundamental difference here, okay? You may not like the fact that Jeff Bezos has big yachts, okay? Mm-hmm. And look, I disagree with government subsidies in any industry. So I don't like the carbon tax credits or whatever, however Elon made some of his money, okay? Not a fan of that. But with Jeff Bezos and Amazon and most billionaires and businesses, okay, you freely gave up part of your money for a service they provided. Exactly. Jeff Bezos delivered something to your home, a product that you paid him to do so with, okay? It is the free exchange of money to somebody else. The government is not the free exchange of money. It is money taken by force. It always is. This is why you should fundamentally oppose big government and guys like Mondami saying, oh, it's just a redistribution of wealth. It is redistribution by force, whereas the money going to people like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, others, Mark Zuckerberg, is the result of a free exchange of money for a good and service. That is capitalism.
Absolutely.
Mondami is seizing money based upon envy, and he's using the power of government to do it. Stop electing these people.
I couldn't agree more. And here's Stephen Miller.
Movement. And what you're seeing in New York City with Mamdani, that is the future. A party that believes in no bail, a party that believes in no jail, a party that believes in no borders. But here's one group they do want to put in jail. They're political enemies. Like good commies, they will not arrest the criminals. They won't arrest the gang members, but they will arrest their political opposition. That's how society dies, Sean. That's what we're up against now.
On Fox News last night with Sean Hannity, and the Senate is set to vote for a fourth time to end the Schumer shutdown, now tied for the longest in U.S. history. It is day 35. The Supreme Court will hear arguments over DJT's tariffs tomorrow. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he'll be there in the front row like Bob Euchre.
Well, they can say what they want. I am there to emphasize that this is an economic emergency. National security is economic security. Economic security is national security. As the Treasury Secretary of the United States, I'm in charge of maintaining both.
And he'll be there. I love it. The High Court scheduled oral arguments for November 5th. After it agreed to fast track the case, the tariffs will stay in place until the court makes a decision. And I've let this one breathe for a while, for about a week. It's a big deal. Tucker Carlson interviewed Nick Fuentes, a douchebag, okay, at times, but a talented communicator. I think he's just young, but he's a great communicator. A small percentage of quote-unquote conservatives are trying to cancel Tucker. And you know what? I agree with Jason Whitlock on this one.
I grew up, and again, I'm 58. I grew up at a time when Louis Farrakhan would be interviewed publicly on television. I didn't grow up during this time, but Malcolm X used to be interviewed regularly. When I was growing up, David Duke would get interviewed on the Phil Donahue Show and other places. And everybody survived.
Exactly. Hey, interview whoever you want. The more, the merrier. It's a good thing. All sides, you got to hear it. Don't try to cancel him. You're not a conservative if you try to cancel a journalist from interviewing anyone.
I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I think Peter Boyles would agree. We were talking about this one day, and Pete was talking about how in the prime heyday of talk radio, you had really controversial people.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It made for compelling shows. That people wanted to listen to and debate the issues, and then kind of
like Alan Berg.
Yeah, right. Right. I mean, I could be wrong. No. I don't want to put words, but that was the sense I got from the radio legend himself.
In the 80s, I mean, some of the shows, and Jason's right. I mean, no one died. Okay. I mean, that's what it's all about. The hearing all these different views, angles. You and Billy, same way. I mean, you have to. I mean, we have to protect free speech more than anything else. And I couldn't agree with him more. Nuggets at the Kings last night in Sacramento.
6 to shoot. Jokic's going to have to hoist. Nope. On the dribble drive. Here he comes. And he lays it up and in.
Joker. Man, Nikola Jokic, 34, 14, and 7. The 7 were boards, and he had 4 steals. Christian Brown, 21 points. Nuggets 4 and 2. The Heat in town tomorrow. The Avalanche tonight. Lightning and the Avs in Lodo. The Broncos continue to prepare. They have a short week for the Raiders. Thursday night at Mile High. Huge game for the Broncos in the AFC West. And the Cardinals and the Cowboys last night.
First and goal from the 12. Brissett lets it fly. End zone, McBride, touchdown.
Backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett, 27-17. The Cardinals over Dallas. 41 in Aurora, 40 in Lakewood, 42 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. And you're waking up with Jeff and Bill. I love that jingle. Man, I'm hooked. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Pretty good look at November weather. It'll be a mix of high clouds and sun and very, very mild. We're going to be well up into the 70s today, 30s and low 40s tonight. A little bit cooler, sunny and a little breezier, 65 to 70 Wednesday, lower 40s Wednesday night. For Thursday, increasing high clouds, breezy, 60s, and a bit cooler for Friday and Saturday, 50s and 60s, as a couple of frontal systems will come through. But any moisture with these fronts at the end of the week and the start of the weekend will stay in the mountains and to our north. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Interesting case out of Virginia. Stephen Miller and his family, they've actually had to move. Now they live on an Army base to protect them and keep them safe. This is a New York Times article. But protesters have been doxing where he lives, putting his family's address when he didn't live on the Army base out on flyers. One of the ladies that did this has been arrested. She's had her cell phone seized, and there's debates over whether or not that's too expansive in the government search. But it piqued my interest, and I went to go look at Colorado law with regards to doxing public officials. Is it a crime? Generally, my reading of this is yes, and it's not just elected officials. Back in 2021, they passed a law, an anti-doxing law that protected healthcare workers, child protection workers, and code enforcement workers. And I agree with this. I think it should be illegal to put people's home addresses up for the purpose of intimidation. General home addresses, like of the stars, I don't know. I'm not even sure that's worth it. Like, do you need to know where John Elway lives? Is that important? I don't know if that's relevant. It's kind of prying information in my mind that you would want to know where football stars like Bo Nix live. I'm not sure that needs to be general knowledge. But the idea that you could put elected officials' addresses on flyers for the purpose of generating protesters, or God forbid worse, an attack. You've seen this happen to people like Rand Paul, he was attacked by his neighbor, but people show up. Happened to the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Guy was arrested. Shows up with guns and zip ties outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house. I think that there is a culture right now that sees violence as an appropriate response to political differences. I mean, our colleague here at Salem lost his life as a result of this. I don't think there needs to be any reason for anybody to publish anybody's home address, especially if there's kids or grandchildren involved in this, as an appropriate way to protest somebody. Lauren Boebert's had people show up outside of her home and walk her neighborhood to protest. I think that's wrong, and the people that do it should be prosecuted as a result of it. The only reason you would put someone's home address out is to intimidate them and possibly even bring violence to their front door. It's not right. Should be illegal. Bill, what do you think?
Oh, this is a tough one for me, only because I am old enough to remember when, on a yearly basis, a company used to deliver to your doorstep everybody's phone number, address, in the entire community. You could find anybody's name, anybody's number. And I find it's an interesting change inside of our society that what was once publicly published and given to you for free is now viewed as a violation of your privacy. I'm not commenting on positive or negative. I'm just commenting on that evolution within our lifetimes of society. I think is really interesting and also very concerning, because if we weren't, and I'm using the we as the royal we, if we as a society weren't using that information for nefarious purposes, it would still be open and free. It wouldn't be this much of a big deal. Again, rather than them delivering the big book with the yellow pages to you, they make you go ahead and then pay for it now online, which is a totally different system. And I remember when, and I could be wrong based on some of the first times that it happened, but the very first time I remember this coming, the idea of protests and doing it at the home and putting people's names and their addresses out, was during the pro-life movement in the 80s, where they would show up at doctors' houses. Yeah. I don't remember it before then, but I remember it distinctly then. And it was because we have to show the neighbors what a horrible person they're living next to. And if that was the reason that protests were okay in a neighborhood, it is hard to say that any protest inside of a neighborhood in front of your house is wrong. Because if those people protesting believe that they need to show what an evil person is living in the neighborhood, it's hard for me to then say that I get to make the choice on who's being who's making the right choice there. So I have a problem with that. However, because we are using people's addresses as a form of intimidation, this has become something that we do on the regular. And it is not one party or the other, because if we go back to the COVID, some of the reason that those healthcare providers' names are now, not names, but addresses are now illegal for you to release is because people that were angry at them and thought they were in part of some big giant conspiracy were threatening their lives. People that were like, I'm not getting the jab because the jab kills more people than it saves. All that crap that you heard about. All of that. That's part of the reason. We had people showing up at school boards and, threatening people. We had people go to Brett Kavanaugh's house. This is kind of what we do. In fact, it's really weird that we're talking about this today, because I watched a video yesterday of a guy that was approaching It was another state, but it was a person that was in charge of the health department in that state. The person was coming up to their door repeatedly because this person was ignoring their phone calls at the office, ignoring all their emails, wasn't taking any meetings. So they decided they had to have this information by showing up repeatedly at their door and knocking over and over again in the course of days. Police were eventually called. So that's it. And this person, the person that was doing the knocking, felt so justified because this official has to have this information. They have to know this. They felt so strongly about it. They felt they could break this idea or bubble of privacy. It really worries me. And what really worries me about it is that we view that if you're on the other side of me, ideologically or politically, it's okay for me to threaten and intimidate you where you live. We've gotten to that point in our society that enough of us justify that in our heads and our behavior that we have to have laws making it illegal for you to tell somebody else where someone lives. That, to me, is a bigger reflection on who we are as a society than anything else. I think we need to take a moment and smell ourselves.
Bill, I agree with you. And I'm just going to take the devil's advocate because I want to see if there's anybody out there in our listener audience ship in Denver. Okay? Is there any free speech purists out there? We live in a democracy. You are an elected official. I have every right to hold you accountable no matter where you are. It is a constitutionally protected right. Is anyone willing to call in and make that argument? I'd be intrigued. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. 720-819-5115. Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. So, Jeff, you've come out pretty strong against it. We have a current case of about 7 days ago. A guy was sentenced for approaching Obama's house armed with, I think, guns and knives. And the two prosecuting attorneys from the district attorney's office were fired because in the sentencing documents, they made note that Trump had put out Obama's address, and this guy responded and was live streaming as he was, circling his house, and those guys got fired. Now, where do you stand on that?
I don't know anything about the case, actually.
Well, it went down exactly that way. They fired those two prosecuting attorneys, put two different attorneys on it that removed the information that it was Trump who put out his address, and they removed the note that his prior history included his participation in January 6th riot quote, and they were fired for having done that by the Justice Department, by what's her name? I can't think of it now. And she put two different ones on, and they removed those pieces of information. And then the guy was sentenced to time served, which was basically 2.5 years while his case was being prosecuted. So, that's a case of, that's a case that you would maybe say that wasn't the right thing.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to say that. No, Trump shouldn't have put out Obama's home address in Washington, D.C. If he did that, he shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, well, and then should he be held accountable?
I'd have to look at the time. I'd have to look at what he said. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, but I mean, right. No, I don't know many details about this case. But yeah, no, I mean, if it shouldn't be done. I think it's inappropriate. I don't think the president should have done it.
Yeah. All right. I thought it was a relevant case. Thanks for taking the call, guys.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks,
All
Tony.
right. Tony's line is open. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Let's go to Joe in Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. I have a comment about President Trump. Any president who, in the aim of national security, doxes someone, like I remember President Trump sent a picture of the house. I believe it was a leader who was threatening the United States, and he sent a picture of his house, and that's all he needed to send.
In Afghanistan.
Yeah, it was a very good message, because that turned him right around. He realized, why are you sending me a picture of my house? Well, you think about that.
Yeah, no, I mean it does become a form of intimidation.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing, Tony, the president is immune from prosecution while in office because he's the commander in chief. And he does what he thinks is rightly fitting for the country, including doxing Obama's house, the renegade Obama. Thank you, President Trump, for doing that.
Yeah, I think
we really do
Joe,
appreciate that.
I think that was done prior to him being in office, but I could have the timeline wrong.
Well, I hope he does it again. Anyway, but Billy, if you think that doxing should be done, or you miss those days, feel free to dox your own house and number.
Yeah, Joe, did you listen to the entirety of what I said?
I did, and
Okay.
I realize you're saying you miss those days, basically.
Now, what I'm saying, it's not a matter of miss. It's a matter of understanding where we are as a society. And you yourself admitted that it was a form of intimidation when Donald Trump showed the other leader where his house was. And so if it's a form of intimidation, that's what my comment is that you and I, Joe, you and I grew up in an era where you could look up everybody's phone number. You could go and you could look up that cute girl in class. You could figure out her phone number and everything. Yeah, Joe, hang on, let me finish here. And now we've gotten to a point in society where that open access to someone's name, address, and phone number is now a form of intimidation and in some cases weaponized. I'm saying that is a huge reflection on who we have become as a society and who we are today. I think that is a failure of us as Americans. That's it. That's where I'm going with it, man.
No, I am so in agreement with you. I'm just kidding about you doxing your own number. But I will say this. We used to live in a society where, I mean, in my neighborhood, we'd leave the front door open or unlocked. All the kids would come in and out of the house. Basically kids would show up at your dinner table that weren't your kids. And that's okay. That's the way it was. America was a much different place. Now I'm a delivery person, and at people's door it says, trespassers will be shot, survivors will be shot again. That's what we're dealing with now in America. And you can't walk down the street. It's very, very concerning, and it's getting a lot worse, and it will be because we've invited communism into our lives. Yes, here in Colorado, colorful communist Colorado. Thank you, Tony.
Joe Arvada, appreciate the call.
Thanks
so much. So here's the question then. Is it right for this woman to be prosecuted for putting Stephen Miller's address out? Or is it a free speech violation?
For me, it is correct to prosecute her. And here's the reason why. Is while I lament where we are in society, while I say that it is wrong to use someone's address and publicly use it for intimidation, that's also the point that I cannot, for the life of me, and I would love to have anybody on the phone, 303-696-1971, give us a call. I want you to justify to me why any sort of a protest, flyer, sign, pamphlet has to include the home address of the person that you are protesting, upset with, or calling out. What is the reason contained therein that in all the information you're providing, that one of the important bits be their home address? Why is that important to the information you're trying to share, if not for the sole purpose of intimidation? Explain to me what other possible purpose, including someone's home address, would have in that scenario. That's it.
Wow, we got jam-packed phone lines. We'll continue this conversation. Look, for many of us, it's happening. Your hair might be thinning, your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity's lost altogether. Well, I got good news for you. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day, and it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. We've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have, but what if what you want is your own natural hair permanently in specific areas? From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Pauls, it's not maybe your hair will regrow. It's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Advancedhair.com. All right, we'll continue. Phone lines are hot. Text messages are hot. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Debate this hour. Someone outside Stephen Miller's home has been arrested for distributing flyers that include his home address. He's since had to move on to an army base with his family to keep him safe. But is it a violation of free speech?
There's a lot of Trump officials that are on army bases now living there.
Well,
I had a list of Miller, Rubio, Nome, Hegseth, Driscoll, and Phelan.
Wow.
Are the six
Are you
so far.
doxing them right now?
No, I just searched. I searched a list, and I'm like, that was easy. Yeah, again, I didn't look at what army bases or anything else. I just thought that was interesting.
Is it a violation of free speech that these people be prosecuted, or should doxing elected officials be illegal? It is here in Colorado. Do you agree with it? Let's go to the phone lines. John in Denver. Good morning, John. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for taking the call. I just wanted to bring up the point that I'm not sure which one of you made, but the right to privacy has always existed for people. Yes, the white pages existed. They were delivered to everybody. I remember it well. But you could opt out of having your name, address, phone number listed and have an unlisted address and not disclosed by anybody. You had to proactively, contact the phone company and opt out, but you did have the right to privacy and not have your information disclosed. So I do think there should be accountability in some form for people that take it upon themselves to disclose public officials, celebrities, or whoever's personal information that they don't want disclosed to the public, because they do have that right to privacy.
Yeah, see, and I like where you're going with that, John, and that's the difficulty that I have, because you and I both, grew up in that era where, yeah, there were lots of people that you knew, law enforcement, there were radio talk show hosts, TV people, politicians that would have that, unlisted number, and it was always something special when you had a friend that you're like, oh, I got the unlisted number because, their dad or mom did X, Y, or Z. But I think it's also, it's really sad as far as where we are as a community and a society, that we've decided to weaponize where someone lives, that we are going to use your home address as a form of intimidation. That absolutely, yes, it should be illegal, because I can't imagine, and maybe you can help me out. Can you figure out a way that somehow in some sort of a protest sign or some sort of a presentation, putting someone's home address is germane to anything that you're protesting about them or the product or the group they're involved with? Why would you ever feel the need to put someone's home address on any sort of protest materials or informational materials?
Absolutely. There's only one reason, like you said, it's for intimidation purposes. Is to try to quiet dissenting voices, and it's wrong. It's wrong. It should not be allowed. I don't know if there should be criminal prosecution for it, but you are violating that person's right to privacy, which is sacred. And I understand that with the advancement of technology and everything else, that our privacy has been diminished significantly, and people can figure out through various means where people live, what their numbers are, and so forth. But I think that we should make an effort as a society to try to preserve that. I think it's a worthy effort.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and thanks for the call, John. You know what else has been very, very difficult with the idea that now we don't have the white pages and the yellow pages showing up? Radio and TV producing has gotten infinitely more difficult, because back in the day, it was really easy to find people, because the vast majority of people that would just pop up and be involved in radio or TV stories didn't have unlisted numbers. It was very easy to find, John Smith, who did something weird in Mississippi. Yeah, it would probably take you 15, 20 phone calls, but you could find them. Now it's really, really difficult. So that's just a personal pain point for me, that it has made the execution of what I love to do as employment much more difficult. But that's only, me whining about it. So, yeah.
Well, that's been made more difficult. What's been made easier in my life, Bill? Gyrie's has
they're
made
amazing.
Home decoration a lot easier for my wife and I.
They're incredible, and they are going to give you that customized, we've seen all those home improvement shows, and they've got that specialist that comes in and says, hey, we're doing this, and we want to do this and this. Gyrie's gives you that personal consultant by just being a customer. You get that concierge level service by just walking through the door. Jeff, tell us about what they've done at your house.
Yep, we were looking to update our home with some new blinds. We typically buy affordable ones online, cheap ones, and the string would always break. Oh, I get so tired of putting those up. So we talked.
Some of the panels would break, and you'd have like one missing panel or two missing panels that goes across.
That's
we've all been there. We've all been there.
Yep. So we went to Guy Reese because we got to sit down with their professional designer who showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. Look, I was a little overwhelmed at first. I'm not a home decor pro, but she was the pro. My wife got to ask lots of questions, and the designer pro was very helpful. They have lots of options to enhance the look and functionality of your home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Guy Reese has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. Here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come to you so you can get the same expert advice right in your own home. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit GuyReese.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Guy Reese. You'll be sure to thank me. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Ben and Morrison. Good morning, Ben. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah. So all this stuff is wrong in general. You shouldn't be sending out people's address because former callers have all said this. The intention is basically just to harass and intimidate people. It's not serving any higher purpose or anything like that. And Jeff, if you need the details on the Trump issue, he posted something on June 29th of 2023. So he's not president. He's not officially running
I'm
yet at that
actually
point.
looking at his Truth Social on June 29th, including an archived version.
He deleted it.
Yeah, but this
after.
also included deleted ones. I don't see it anywhere. Can you actually can you get the actual statement that he made?
I was looking for it in the court documents, but I can't find it exactly. I think a lot of it has been scrubbed because it did have the address. So I think a lot of media agencies had pulled it down. But the man's name was Taylor Toronto, who got caught out there, 37-year-old, who arrived at the Obama location shortly after Trump had posted this out. There was two Secret Service went out and picked him up. The prosecutors that were on the case had verified that most likely he had gotten the address and had arrived in that neighborhood due to the Truth Social post that Trump had put out back in June.
But that's all I get is the neighborhood. So I like here's what I'm wondering is it just kind of a complaint like, oh, those people that live in Cherry Hills, or was it his actual home address? Because it's not even as archived. There's nothing here even in the archives.
It was something alluding to this is where the Obamas are, and I'm not sure if they listed the exact address or like they're over here in this neck of the woods.
Like those rich people living in Georgetown or something like that. I don't know. So, but regardless, Ben, and I'm happy to say it, if it was the actual address and it was an effort to intimidate Trump or Obama, it shouldn't have been done. But it seems this seems to be something I can't get clear details on. But all right, Ben, I appreciate it. But if you run into it, please text us. Love to see the Truth Social. I mean, I'm looking at the archives, which included deletes, and I can't find it. So send it to the show. We've got good listeners. 303-696-1971 is the phone line. Text message line is 720-819-5115. But Bill, do you think that's saying something that so many of Trump's administration officials have to live on army bases? What?
Yeah.
Is that the same that it's always been? Maybe it is.
No, not at all. From what I understand, no. And yeah, I do think that is saying something. And again, we need to spend some time looking in the mirror. It says something, one, that they feel that is the only way to feel protected and safe. But again, how many times, and I'm looking primarily at something like Stephen Miller, based on the language and the descriptors that he uses and how he talks about some people. I mean, Blake played something earlier that talked about how if X, Y, and Z happen, it's destroying the country. Okay, that if that rhetoric is true, that the people he's talking about are destroying the country, why wouldn't you publish their phone numbers and their addresses and go to their neighborhoods and maybe even take things into your own hands. If you believe the rhetoric coming out of his mouth, that they are trying to destroy the country. And we see the same thing with the left, characterizing individuals on the right as Nazis that are going to be doing this, and soon they'll be doing this, and we'll just wait until the gas chambers start. The same thing. If you really believed that, then you should be doing everything in your power, which may even include something extrajudiciously. You may be going outside the law if you really believe that's happening. So part of this, I believe, is a bed of our own making because of where we have taken language and rhetoric that we are expecting this to happen. And I think it's also very worrisome that the solution is inside of a military base. And what I mean by that is, imagine that we continue down this path and soon all presidential cabinet members have housing on military bases.
Right.
All people inside. And so what we're
Sad.
saying is,
put the Ten Commandments back up in the classroom.
Those people involved, we think they're in so much danger that we need to have them cordoned off inside of a military base, and then tell me we are not marching towards some of those dystopian futures that people like Asimov talked about.
Woo, interesting. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Many members of Trump's cabinet living now on Army bases in order to protect themselves. If they're out in the wild, so to speak, their homes are being doxxed. Some are claiming it's a free speech right to protest outside of someone's home, and that's why they're putting their addresses on flyers. Others saying, no, that's just an effort to intimidate, harass, stalk, possibly even lead to violence. You saw that with Brett Kavanaugh in Colorado. It's illegal to dox an elected official. It's actually illegal to dox a lot of people, judges, healthcare workers, even child care or child protection people. Can't dox them. It's illegal in the state of Colorado. I think that's right. I think it's just an effort to intimidate and bring violence to someone's front doorstep. And that often involves kids, grandchildren, spouses that have nothing to do with public service that are being intimidated by folks. It's not right, and it should be illegal. Let's go to the phone lines. Frank in Evergreen. What do you think, Frank? You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, I think I'm answering a question you were talking about earlier, but we have the right to free speech. We have the right to free association. We have the right to privacy. We do not have the right to, and this I'm talking about any American person. I'm talking about that includes citizens and any visa holder. American persons do not have the right to anonymity. You can't be like the Unabomber living in Montana at the end of a dirt road thinking you can do whatever you want to do out there and not be under the thumb of the American government, because anonymity is different than freedom of speech and freedom of association, et cetera. Now let's talk about what Barack Obama did when he was president and in killing American persons without the FISA court involved. He was never even investigated for it. Now,
but Frank, how does that help me square the circle on how that is doxing or releasing someone's private address in terms of the framework of Stephen Miller and what we're talking about? Just help me connect the dots.
Yeah, well, it's a complicated subject, obviously, Billy. But the notion that I can Google your address and put it up on a document someplace, enforcing that is no small thing. If you're saying that now all of a sudden all of our addresses have to be masked, it's a big deal. I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible. Matter of fact, our intelligence agencies do that. They actually, by law, thankfully to the I forget the senator's name offhand now. From Tennessee, I believe, who has been a champion of putting these laws in place where any U.S. person cannot be followed by the intelligence agencies without proper authorization from the FISA court, and that's where we get into the technology associated with that. The technology is there and it's in place. But when you have politicians and bureaucrats who, irrespective of the technology, because the technology is there, make decisions like they did with the Trump case in investigating Trump and various other Republican senators to basically lie to the FISA court, then all of a sudden that technology in place that masks all that information for American persons is overridden because the FISA court said, yes, go ahead and do that. And I guess my question is for you, both of you actually, is at what point, as an American person, if I travel to Russia and I make a plan with Putin to overthrow the American government or to do something, to that effect, should I be under the thumb of the American government? And I guess I have an answer, but I'm curious what you think.
That's not hard for me. Yeah, it's an effort at treason. What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, if you're an American citizen, yeah. Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
All right, we got to get to a break. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
KNUS.